We tell ourselves these comforting stories about genius, don't we? That it's a gift, a kind of divine lightning strike that hits a chosen few. We see the final product, the elegant equation, the breathtaking painting, and we imagine a mind of pure, clean logic. But that's a lie. It's a fiction we've created to hide a much more terrifying truth. Because behind the polished legacies of our greatest minds, there's a secret history. A history of chaos, of obsession, and of a desperate, hidden struggle against the very power that made them great. Today, we're going to decode that struggle. We're going to uncover the real price of genius. Our investigation really kicks off with this deceptively simple question from a man who completely redefined reality itself. Now, this wasn't just some witty comeback to defend a messy workspace. No, this was a challenge. It was a clue, hidden right there in plain sight, pointing to the true nature of a mind hard at work. You see, Einstein understood something that we've mostly forgotten, that the process of real, profound creation isn't neat, it's a storm. And to navigate that storm, the mind has to resort to some strange strategies that, from the outside, can look an awful lot like madness. I want you to keep this question in your mind, because by the time we're done here, it's going to mean something completely different to you.
So, first things first, let's just dismantle the myth. This idea of the effortless genius. It serves a purpose. It puts these people up on a pedestal, right? Safely distances their minds from our own. It lets us admire the amazing result without having to look too closely at the brutal, chaotic process that got them there. We're sold the story of minds that operate like perfect, flawless computers. But the reality is so much more human and, frankly, far more disturbing. We see the strange habits, the bizarre rituals, the jarring eccentricities, and we just write them off as quirks, side effects of being brilliant. But what if we've got it completely backwards? What if they aren't side effects at all? What if they're the very tools these minds had to forge, just to keep from shattering?
This is the real heart of it, the conflict between the serene image we want to believe in and the turbulent reality of how it all works. The truth is, a mind that's capable of seeing what no one else can see is often a mind that can't filter out what the rest of us just ignore. It's a mind living in a state of constant, overwhelming input, and to survive that kind of onslaught, just to carve out a little space where thought is even possible, it has to build systems, fences, cages even. And sometimes, those very systems, the ones designed for survival, they become a threat all on their own. This isn't a story about easy brilliance. It's a story about managing a very dangerous internal power.
Okay, so our first piece of evidence in this secret history, it almost feels like a deliberate strategy, a conscious choice to weaponize a strange quirk of our own biology. This isn't madness taking over. This is a calculated journey into the borderlands of the mind. It's a technique to literally engineer access to a state of consciousness that's normally lost to us, a place where the rules of logic just dissolve and entirely new worlds can be born.
To really get this hack, you have to understand the territory it explores. It's called the hypnagogic state. Now, it's not sleep, and it's not being awake. It's that twilight zone in between. You know the feeling. As your conscious, rational mind starts to power down, the deeper, more primal parts of your brain just ignite. In this state, thoughts aren't linear, they're fluid, they're surreal, they're even hallucinatory. The mind becomes hyper-associative, just forging these bizarre, impossible connections between things that have nothing to do with each other. For most of us, it's a fleeting moment we barely remember. But for a certain kind of thinker, this chaotic wilderness, it's a goldmine.
And get this, both the surrealist painter Salvador Dali and the physicist Albert Einstein completely independently figured out a way to raid this state. It was an ingenious physical hack. They would sit upright in a chair, not lie down, holding a heavy object. For Dali, it was a big metal key, for Einstein, just a simple spoon. And they'd let themselves drift off. The very moment they crossed that threshold into the hypnagogic state, their muscles would relax. The object would fall. The clang it made on the floor or a plate below was the alarm clock, yanking them right back to consciousness. They'd wake up, not from a deep sleep, but from that exact fertile moment, with their minds still dripping with all the impossible imagery and weird connections that they could now capture and use in their work. It was a repeatable method for fishing ideas right out of the subconscious.
So that technique was about gaining more mental territory. But our next case study is about the exact opposite. It's about defense. It's about protecting the mind's most precious and shockingly finite resource. This isn't about looking for more creativity. This is about preserving the raw energy you need for any deep thought at all. And it shows us that for a mind operating at the highest level, the everyday world isn't an inspiration, it's a field of cognitive landmine.
The enemy here is something called decision fatigue. Modern psychology has basically confirmed what these geniuses knew instinctively. Our ability to make good judgments is a resource that runs out. Every single choice we make, From the most trivial to the most life-altering, it all draws from the same limited well of mental energy. What should I wear? What's for breakfast? Which email do I answer first? Each one is a tiny little withdrawal. For most of us, the tank gets refilled overnight. But if you're someone who's wrestling with the fundamental laws of the universe, these tiny withdrawals are a catastrophic loss.
Looking at it like this makes the stakes brutally clear. While an ordinary mind is spending its energy just navigating 1,000 tiny daily choices, Einstein was in a zero-sum game. Every single ounce of cognitive fuel he spent deciding on socks was an ounce he couldn't spend on general relativity. His famous refusal to wear socks, or his habit of wearing the same style of suit every single day, that wasn't just him being eccentric. It was a ruthless, disciplined strategy of cognitive conservation. He was automating the irrelevant parts of his life to free up every possible neuron for the work that actually mattered. He built a fortress, not out of stone, but out of routine, to protect his mind from the tyranny of the trivial. But that raises a much darker question. What happens when the fortress becomes a prison?
Okay, so we've seen how a system can be a tool for creation, and how it can be a shield for conservation. But now, we're at a crucial turning point. We're going to look at a case where the system wasn't a tool at all. It was an ideology. A set of rules so rigid, so absolute, that they stopped serving the mind and instead started to command it. This is the story of how a system designed to create order can lead to an ultimate and fatal paralysis.
It's a really disturbing thought, isn't it? That a principle, a rule you live your life by, could become the direct cause of your own destruction. It seems impossible. We think of our beliefs as things that guide us, that protect us. But for one of the foundational figures of Western thought, a man whose work is still taught in every school on Earth, the answer to this question was a stark and terrifying yes. His own system killed him.
We remember Pythagoras for his theorem, a cornerstone of geometry. But the historical figure, he was far stranger and way more powerful. He was the leader of a secret brotherhood, a community that was part philosophical school, part religious cult. They lived by this complex set of rules for every aspect of life, all based on the belief that numbers were the ultimate reality. And among their many, many prohibitions, one stood out as being absolute, unshakable, and just bizarre: a total ban on fava beans. To the Pythagoreans, the bean was an object of profound evil. Maybe it contained the souls of the dead. It was a forbidden thing that you must not touch.
The tragic end of his story is a chilling example of his system's tyranny. His political enemies, who were threatened by his influence, attacked his school and set it on fire. Pythagoras and his disciples were forced to flee for their lives, so they're running, pursued by armed men, until they get to the edge of a large field. Their only way to safety was to go straight across it, but the field, it was planted with fava beans. As his followers scattered into the field, Pythagoras just stopped. He stood there, at the edge, trapped. Certain death was behind him, and the violation of his most sacred rule was in front of him. He chose the rule. He refused to trample the beans, and he allowed his pursuers to catch him and kill him. His system of logic, which was designed to help him understand the world, had made him completely incapable of surviving it.
The fall of Pythagoras is a powerful cautionary tale about being too rigid. But it also leads us now to our central revelation. What if the most extreme rituals, the most obsessive habits, what if they aren't about logic or ideology at all? What if there's something way more primal, a desperate attempt to build a raft in the middle of a psychic hurricane? We've been asking if these habits create genius. It's time to ask a different question. What if these habits are the only thing that allows the genius to survive their own mind?
Let's talk about Nikola Tesla, the man who basically dreamed up our entire modern electrical grid. His mind was a torrent of visions, so powerful he could build and test whole machines inside his head. But the mechanism that allowed him to do that came at a terrible price. Psychologically, it's very likely Tesla operated with extremely low latent inhibition. Now, what that is, it's a cognitive filter that, for most of us, automatically dismisses sensory information that it deems irrelevant. For you, the hum of the lights, the texture of your chair, the distant sound of traffic, it all just fades into the background. For Tesla, it didn't. Everything rushed in all the time with equal intensity. It's a state of perpetual sensory overload, an endless mental storm.
So, how does a mind even function in that kind of chaos? Well, it imposes its own order, an order that's arbitrary, rigid, but 100% predictable. Tesla became pathologically obsessed with the number 3. This was his anchor. Before he would enter a building, he felt this overwhelming compulsion to walk around the block 3 times. If he didn't do it, it would cause him immense psychic distress.
At meals, this obsession got even more precise. He required a stack of 18 clean napkins, that's a multiple of 3.
He would use them to polish every single piece of silverware and every dish to a perfect shine before he could even start to eat. It was this time-consuming, bizarre ritual that completely dominated his daily life.
But you have to understand, these weren't lucky charms. They weren't superstitions in the way we usually think of them. They were a kind of self-prescribed therapy. In the overwhelming, unpredictable flood of sensory data that was his reality, the absolute predictability of the number 3, the ritual of the napkins, the circling of the block, these were the only fixed points in his universe. They were non-negotiable acts of order that just for a moment quieted the storm and created just enough mental space for his genius to actually do its work.
And this is the whole thing, the final, crucial insight of our investigation. We've been looking at this phenomenon from the wrong direction. We look at these strange habits and we wonder, is that the secret formula? Is that how you unlock great ideas? But the truth is so much more dramatic. The rituals did not create the genius. They were a cage built by the mind itself to contain a power that threatened to completely overwhelm it. They are the evidence, not of a mind that is different, but of a mind that is desperately struggling to survive its own immense chaotic capacity.
So where does all this leave us in our own, more ordinary lives? Well, it offers a pretty radical way to reframe what we consider normal. It suggests that genuine creativity isn't born from conformity. It blossoms at the messy, idiosyncratic edges of human behavior. Those personal systems we all develop, the strange ways we organize our thoughts or our workspace, the little habits that other people might find odd, maybe we shouldn't be so quick to dismiss them. They might not just be quirks. They might be the very scaffolding we're building, consciously or not, to support our own best thinking. Your weird might just be the operating system required for your own unique form of intelligence to actually emerge.
And so we come all the way back to where we began, to Einstein's desk. And now, finally, we can understand the true weight of his question. He wasn't just defending clutter, he was defending chaos. He was making this profound statement that the evidence of a mind truly engaged in the act of creation is not some superficial order, but the disarray of a work in progress. He was suggesting that true emptiness isn't found in a cluttered mind, but in a mind that has no great projects, no chaotic explorations, no messy struggles with the unknown. An empty desk, he's implying, might just be a sign of a mind that has nothing important to think about at all. A mind that is not at war and therefore not truly alive.